India's Law Commission proposes that the punishment for sedition offence be increased. The Commission recommends that the sedition be made punishable with life imprisonment or for a term of up to 7 years from the present punishment of 3 years of imprisonment. The Law Commission of India says that sedition offence of the Indian Penal Code should be retained with certain amendments. The Commission has recommended amendments to the Sedition Act, and this is a section to bring in more clarity. The Law Commission proposes that the punishment for sedition offence be increased. The Commission recommends that the sedition be made punishable with the imprisonment, which was earlier 3 years, that should be now 7 years. To get more on this, we have my colleague Sunil Prabhu joining us. Sunil, get us more on, the Law Commission backing that Sedition Act, but saying that, a certain error, a margin of that provision for misuse does not mean that you repeal, that you should be repealing that law.
Well, this comes, of course, 1 year after the Supreme Court had stayed and put on hold all sedition laws across the country. It's in that context that the centre had said at that stage and admitted to the Supreme Court that there has been misuse, that they are ready to reconsider and relook at that entire proposal. 1 year later, the Law Commission has now examined, says it has to remain. And of course, as you pointed out, those number of provisions being made, in fact, increasing, and use the word tendency. This will now, of course, be sent to the Law Ministry as well as the Home Ministry, where they'll examine it threadbare, then take it to Cabinet if they accept the Law Commission's findings, and then, of course, bring it to Parliament before it's brought as a bill, and then, of course, that will go back to the Supreme Court. But at present, all sedition charges have been stayed by the Supreme Court, and it's in this backdrop that the Law Commission is agreeing now that the sedition law should continue with those safeguards, which are basically an increase in penalty, not very much of change in terms of the existing provisions, and yes, using the word tendency. So we'll have to wait and see how things play out and what the government does. But nevertheless, we must remember and put it in perspective that the Supreme Court has kept this law on hold.
Right. Sunil, also what's being said is that there has to be a guideline in order to safeguard against this misuse.
That's right. So one of the provisions that when the Attorney General was hearing this case, that this should be done at the level of a Superintendent Police. Here, the Law Commission is recommending it at the level of the Inspector. So these guidelines, how do you look at it? What is the tendency to overthrow governments? Whether this, because this is a part of the colonial Raj, part of the colonial past, where the British had brought in the sedition law to ensure that those who spoke out against the state at that present juncture, they could be acted against. The entire Indian national movement, had a number of the leaders were, had cases against them on terms of sedition. And now today, you're using that same provision to misuse it for various reasons, when it is really not a case of overthrowing a government. So it's in this backdrop, we'll have to wait and see whether those provisions which have been recommended by the Law Commission are acceptable to the government and whether it will pass in Parliament, both in Lok Sabha as well as in the Rajya Sabha.